Alright, I'm going to do the Angler of the Year race right now. Just took it by storm. Really had an impressive lead here. 491 points, first place. All over that stuff right there. Greg Blanchard.
Nice. Yeah!
That's 2015 Greg Blanchard. Congratulations, Greg.
So I began kayak bass fishing about 4 years ago, and it wasn't intentional. It was actually kind of an accident. Throughout my college years, my mom, my sister, my grandma and I, we started renting a lake house on Canisius Lake. It's one of the Finger Lakes in New York, and we did that for about five, 6 years. And every year we went, we would stay for about a week, and I'd rent a John boat that entire week. I'd rent a little 25 horsepower John boat. So that was a lot of fun. I went out on this little John boat every day. I probably fished 12 to 14 hours a day the entire week we were there. It was my one opportunity to get off the bank. I was a bank fisherman before that. And actually the second to last year of renting that cottage, I had to bring the John boat back to the marina, which was always, kind of depressing for me because we still had about either a day or a half a day left at the cottage. So I brought it back to the marina, I went back to the cottage, and I was fishing off the dock. I still wanted to fish, of course, and I noticed under the dock were some kayaks. So I just, I thought, hey, why don't I just take one of the kayaks out and paddle around, stay pretty close to shore and see if I can catch a few fish. It turns out after I took the kayak out that afternoon, that evening, I was fishing mainly docks. It stayed pretty shallow, but I was getting in really tight spaces that John boat didn't allow me to do. And I actually ended up catching more fish in those 4 to 5 hours than I did the entire week I had the John boat. So after that, I started, looking into kayak fishing, and pretty much the rest is history. I've been addicted ever since. My first kayak was a Lifetime Manta. It was a Christmas present. It was a 10-foot long, 36-inch wide kayak, extremely slow, extremely uncomfortable, but I loved it. It was, it got me off the bank. I enjoyed every minute of it. And about 2 years ago, well, not even, it was about a year and a half ago, I upgraded my kayak to a native watercraft Slayer Propel 13. And you know, that's obviously a very nice kayak. It's treated me well. The Propel drive is something that you know, allows me to cover water, but more importantly, it allows me to fish more. I'm not messing around with a paddle, trying to hold position, messing around with an anchor. I can pretty much control the kayak with my legs, and I think that's definitely contributed to a lot of my success this year. My grandfather was the biggest, you know, he's the reason that I fish today. Ever since, you know, I was real little, could walk, he was the one that, you know, I'd be waiting for that call, see if I wanted to go fishing. And, you know, he took me every opportunity that he could. I remember spending, you know, I don't even know, almost 2-3 days a week during the summer. I was off from school, fishing with my grandfather, off the bank, different places, and you know, it was just an incredibly enjoyable time, and it gave me that passion for fishing. I remember we'd also take trips every summer, every other summer to Lake Ontario, one of the Great Lakes, and that was with my grandparents. And you know, that was a really awesome opportunity for me, you know, being so young, you know, getting introduced to some really big smallmouth bass. And I remember we had a little rowboat it was under the cottage, and it had a big old hole in it. And my grandfather, you know, being the amazing person he was, he'd row that boat out for me. I'd be fishing, and he'd be scooping cups of water out every 2 minutes to keep it from sinking. But it was just those kinds of things that, you know, made him a really important person in my life. And again, someone that I can't thank enough for giving me, you know, the gift of fishing. I moved out here to Central Texas for work-related purposes. I am a physical therapist, a traveling physical therapist, and my company puts me at different assignments throughout the country, pretty much my choice, for about 3 to 6 months at a time. I was first introduced to cats via YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan, fishing-related videos, so I spend a lot of my hours watching pretty much anything from, you know, bass fishing out of a kayak to, you know, tackle lure reviews. Winning Angler of the Year for me this year was definitely something special, something I'll never forget. It was one of those seasons where everything went right when they needed to go right. Yeah, the competition down here, the Cats events, it's incredible. There are some extremely talented fishermen down here, and you know, for me to do well in these tournaments and win Angler of the Year, it's something, you know, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it again. It's something that is potentially once in a lifetime. So my most memorable catch of the season was definitely at Decker Lake. It was my last, I was cutting it close as far as time. I was about 30, I think we had to be in at about 3 o'clock, if I remember correctly. And I knew I had about a 30-minute paddle back to the ramp, and it was probably 2:26. I was already paddling back, and I saw a couple reeds that I had caught some fish early on in the morning from. So I decided to make a couple flips, and on my third flip into the reeds, I the line got heavy. I set the hook, and it ended up being a 22 3/4 inch bass, probably over 7 pounds. Just totally unexpected. Improved my total score by 5.5, 6 inches, and got me a couple extra points, which was huge. But that catch right there was probably my most memorable of the season. I feel very lucky to have been part of this, this past 2015 season. And for cats, it was a great year for everybody. Some record-breaking numbers for some of the events. A lot of fantastic prizes being given away, and it's something that I'll always remember. It's been a great season, and I'm really thankful that they put something like this together down here. The kayak tournament scene is growing, and this is where it starts right here. The biggest series in the country.